The Oklahoma City Thunder win game 2, going up 2-0, 118-103 over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Andrew, first thoughts on the game?
Yeah, my first thoughts are that if Oklahoma City plays their best game, I feel like they're head and shoulders above almost any team in the West, if not the NBA, which makes it so difficult because if you're not playing your best game, I feel like the Timberwolves' best game, they are maybe marginally better than the OKC Thunder and could win a couple games, but when they're not playing it and they didn't in game 2, it's just so hard to beat them, especially when your second best player isn't playing that well and then you're not getting much production off the bench. This Thunder team can just play so well, and if the Timberwolves aren't playing their A to A plus game, it's not going to work out for them.
Yeah, the Timberwolves just they struggle to support Anthony Edwards at times, at least right now through these playoffs. We talked about this before we got on, some of the different players, some of the different role players that haven't been playing well in these playoffs. And when it comes to the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're so talented on defense, forcing turnovers. They've got 5 guys that can defend. I think it's an extremely tall order to expect this Timberwolves team to now then be potentially more reliable, whether or not that is DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, or somebody like Julius Randle, who I've been waiting for a game like this before. He was 2 of 11 for 6 points. This team really needs him to win. Been waiting for it, but I just don't see them being consistent through this series against Oklahoma City. They're just so talented on defense.
Yeah, like you mentioned at the very end of that, the Thunder just make you have bad games with their defense, and then when they open it up, it feels like they're always they inevitably go on a pretty significant run where they crack the game open and make the game double digits in some form or fashion. And when they do have that run, it's just so hard to come back because of the fact that their defense is so elite, and that's what they pride themselves about. Like if you look at any of their post game press conferences, the first thing they talk about is how they are such a good defensive team, whether that is on the perimeter or in the post. And then if you're gonna, like you mentioned on Julius Randle's side of it, if you're gonna have a bad game from Julius Randle, he's been playing so consistently this playoffs, and I want to give him credit for that. But if he is gonna have one of those former Julius Randle playoff games, like other people have to step up. And Naz Reid hasn't made a 3-pointer in 3 games. He's 1 for 17 in his last 4 games. That simply isn't going to cut it if you're not going to play a Warriors team without Steph Curry. Jaden McDaniels had a really good game, and he was one of the lone bright spots. But you need guys like Dante DiVincenzo to step up. He hasn't been having a very good playoffs, just in general. Nickeil Alexander-Walker also stepped up, and he's had a pretty good first 2 games of the series, probably his best of the playoffs so far. But then, yeah, Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo, 2 of the guys that you thought could be really good role players for this team, have not stepped up, and that's been kind of the downfall of the Timberwolves team, at least through the first 2 games.
And the Thunder have gotten such great production, and they did in game 2 from Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. Like, they were really on point. Chet Holmgren's 3-point shot is clearly just not really there in these playoffs, but still, he's been really productive. I believe he had 22 points yesterday. Jalen Williams had more, I think closer to 26, 27. But you could probably check me on that really quick. Yeah.
26.
Shea he had 26. Okay. And then Shea had 38 points, got to the line 15 times, made his free throws. It is what it is when it comes to that sort of stuff. They can try to, rough him up a little bit. I know Jaden McDaniels kind of sent him to the ground a little bit. I mean, I don't know. It's just like trying to assert being back into this game a little bit, try to bring back a little bit of physicality. Said he wanted to show him what a real foul is, kind of thing. But look, they've just been so talented. When those 3 guys have it going, they can kind of support Shea. I mean, support Shea. He had 38 points, but when they can give that extra scoring elsewhere, this Thunder team is just going to. They're just going to, like you said, they're just going to beat every single team that's left in front of them right now. I definitely I'll go a step further. I didn't know if you had anything to add to that, but I was going to go a step further and say that you mentioned that they would be the favorites after the Nuggets series. And I think I probably agreed, but I wanted to see more from this Timberwolves team. I am now onto the point where I think that Nuggets series will be the closest easily, by far. I don't know if any of these other series are going to go 6 games on the Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, I'll wait and see. I don't want to have anything aged poorly against me, but yeah, I think it's interesting that in a game where they weren't even getting that much support from their bench, the star players on that team did what they needed to do. They combined for 86 points, like you mentioned. All of them had a pretty decent shooting nights, and I think it's particularly interesting about this Thunder team that they don't have to rely on their 3-point shooting as much. 30 plus threes always feels like a lot when you say it, but in general, in terms of this current modern day NBA, that's not a ton, and I think it starts from the top down with SGA. He only took 2 3-point shots and doesn't rely. He relies more on his mid-range game, getting to the foul line, obviously. So like when your best player doesn't shoot a ton of threes, it doesn't make it so that the other role players feel like they have to do the same. And I think it's the complete opposite with Anthony Edwards, where he's taking 9 threes, only making one of them, and then that Timberwolves team feeds off of that. They take almost 40 threes, more like 50 threes in game one, and it's just not a recipe for success, especially when they're not making them. If you can make the three ball, then go for it. The Celtics were able to win a championship doing it last year, but that this Timberwolves team is not as good as that Celtics team, and they're trying to maybe replicate that style, and it's just not working for them in the series.
So I kind of want to take it a little bit of in a different direction here. Julius Randle was obviously a part of that trade. That was the big piece that they added from the Knicks in the offseason, trading away Karl Anthony Towns. I've been extremely critical of the way that he's played in in years past in the playoffs, but he's been amazing in these playoffs. But we finally kind of got that game from him where we have seen before, if you will. I think this Timberwolves team is too reliant on trusting him. And I think it's worked for them now, but the playoffs are long, 4 series if you want to win the championship. And I really struggle with looking ahead for this Timberwolves team and being able to rely on him. And then Rudy Gobert, who in some games, like he looks like Wilt Chamberlain against the Lakers, against some of the small ball teams that they go against. But then in other games, he's just not a factor offensively, which we've known, and he's an amazing defensive player. But I struggle with those two guys being the next two up, just maybe total talent wise, not offensively completely, but to Anthony Edwards. I worried that maybe this team's peak is the conference finals.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks like it, especially with a team like OKC in front of them. I think that the Nuggets were a far better matchup for them, and they like kind of proved that last year. If you get any sort of production like you did out of Karl Anthony Towns last year against the Nuggets this year, if they were to have played them in the conference finals, I think that matchup looks like definitely like a little bit better for them. But this OKC team, even if they're not playing with their depth, their top three scorers are just so good. They play so hard defensively that this is probably their worst matchup in the playoffs. And if you look through the first 2 series, they had a good matchup versus the Lakers, and then Steph Curry wasn't even playing in that Warriors series, so it just made it that much easier for the Timberwolves to kind of like not even scrape by, just kind of dominate those series. It didn't really even matter if Rudy Gobert wasn't having a particularly insane offensive night, or like any of their role players weren't playing as well, because they didn't need a whole lot. But in this Thunder series, you need everybody hands on deck, and this Thunder team is just showing how good that they are.
Moving into game three, do you have a lean? I'll go first, and then you can end us off. I'm going to say the Thunder. I don't know if this will be a true sweep, but it's going to be a sweep or a gentleman's sweep. I think Thunder are just too talented.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go Timberwolves just with their back on the against the wall in like a do or die game, because there's just no way that any team in this playoffs is coming back against the Thunder 3-0. So I think that they find a way to get one, but I mean, I'm not. It's definitely not a confident lean. Like it's definitely just a shot in the dark, saying that the Timberwolves will have some self preservation.